Amos rolled his suitcase toward the Hawaiian Airlines counter, smiling at the thought of his grandchildren seeing the ocean for the first time, when his son, Caleb, stepped in front of him and said in a tight voice, "Dad, I forgot to buy you a ticket. Just go home." The words hit harder than the airport noise around them. Amos slowed, the suitcase bumping his shin, and stared at the departure board where Honolulu 415 glowed in bright letters. He asked what kind of bad news this was, but Caleb kept his eyes on the gate area, hands deep in his pockets like he wanted to be anywhere else. Amos moved to the counter, where a woman in a crisp blue uniform asked for his name. "Amos Kareem," he said, trying to stay calm. She typed, paused, and said she could not find any reservation for him. She looked again, then nodded sadly. She did see a booking for Caleb Kareem, party of 4, departing at 4:15. Amos felt the floor tilt. He asked about standby. She checked and explained the flights were full because of a big convention, and the first open seat she could find was a red-eye with 2 stops, arriving Thursday for $1,800. Caleb's hand closed on Amos's arm. He tried to pull him away from the counter and talked fast, saying there was no point making a scene and that the family was already inside security. Amos shook him off and asked the agent to try all carriers. She did, and each search ended the same, booked solid. He asked when the family reservation had been made. She hesitated then, in a quiet voice, said it was created 6 weeks ago for 4 passengers and had never been changed. The final boarding call flashed. Caleb looked at his watch, then at the gate, and said, "We'll call you from the hotel, Dad. Take care of yourself." Amos watched his son back away, not with panic or guilt, but with something like relief. He stood still as families rushed past with leis and beach toys, then righted his tipped suitcase and thanked the agent for trying. The jetway door closed, and the board switched to departed. A text arrived from Caleb. "Sorry, Dad, we'll call from the hotel." Amos read the message once and slipped the phone into his pocket. He walked out through the sliding doors into the cool afternoon air, and the hum of the terminal fell behind him. The taxi line was long, but the wait steadied his breath. When the driver asked where to, Amos said, "Oakland, Montclair District." As the car merged into airport traffic, he stared at the gray ribbon of highway and replayed every small comment from the past weeks. Caleb insisting on booking everything himself, Lila suggesting separate hotels, the careful way they kept plans vague. This was not a mistake. It was a choice. And now it would be his turn to choose what came next. Amos reached home before sunset, unlocked the door with a steady hand, and went straight to his small office instead of the kitchen. He needed facts, not food. He changed into his old cardigan, sat at the oak desk Grace had loved, and pulled out the folder marked Hawaii 2025. Inside lay neat copies of everything he had trusted Caleb to handle. The bank transfer receipt for $20,000 dated 6 weeks ago, the travel agency note, and a printed hotel confirmation. He read the confirmation twice, then a third time. It listed 7 guests for 10 nights at the Grand Mackay, Ocean View Suites. Caleb, Lila, Nora, Gideon, Zara, Leo, and Grace Kareem. Grace had been gone for 3 years. His own name was missing. Amos felt a clean click inside, like a switch turning on. He lifted the landline. He always kept it for serious calls, and asked for Grand Mackay reservations. A woman named Leilani answered with a warm, trained voice. Amos gave the reservation number and asked to cancel. She warned him there would be a penalty. "How much?" he asked. $3,200, she said. "That is acceptable," he replied. She processed the request and added a note, canceled by the primary booking party at 6:47 p.m. Pacific. "Thank you," Amos said, then hung up and placed the receiver carefully in its cradle, as if sealing a box. He slept better that night than he had in weeks. In the morning, the percolator filled the kitchen with coffee smell, and his phone screen filled with calls and messages from a Hawaii number. 56 missed calls. Texts stacked one after another. "Call back. Hotel says you canceled. The kids are crying. Fix this now." He poured cream, sipped, and listened to the latest voicemail. Caleb's voice sounded loud and tired, angry and pleading at the same time. They had nowhere to stay. Everything was booked. This was cruel. This was not like him. Amos set his cup down, opened his old message pad, wrote the date and time, and called back. Caleb answered on the first ring and started fast, saying Amos had to fix it, saying there were children involved, saying the trip was ruined. Amos asked one question. When Caleb left his father at the airport, where did he expect him to sleep? Silence, then a hard breath. Lila's voice hissed in the background about credit cards. Caleb said they had put most of it on credit and would have paid it back under different circumstances. Amos wrote that down. Then came the sentence he knew would come. When I get back, you'll regret this. You can't control us with money, old man. Amos wrote that down too, word for word. He said gently, actions have consequences, and ended the call. He stood at the window for a long moment as a hummingbird hovered at the feeder Grace had hung years ago, and the house felt steady around him. The facts were plain now. A planned exclusion, money moved on trust, threats when the plan failed. He opened a drawer, took out a business card for Marcus Bell, estate attorney, and dialed. I need an urgent appointment, Amos said. It's about protection and my will. Amos spent the next hours turning hurt into order. He opened the filing cabinet Grace had labeled years ago and pulled a thick folder marked Family Support. Inside were copies of mortgage payments he had covered during Caleb's job changes, receipts for Zara's violin lessons, Leo's soccer fees, a hospital bill from Lila's surgery, and bank statements showing regular transfers that were called loans but never repaid. He laid everything on the oak desk in neat rows, then typed a one-page timeline. Family dinners where the trip was planned, Caleb insisting on handling all bookings, the $20,000 transfer 6 weeks ago, the airport scene, the hotel cancellation, the 56 calls from Hawaii, and the threats. He printed the call log and screenshots of texts with timestamps, clipped them to the timeline, and slid the stack into a clean envelope. When Bell and Associates called back, Alina offered an afternoon slot for the next day. Amos slept for the first time in days, woke before sunrise, walked their quiet block, and drove into San Francisco. The 15th floor office looked out over the bay, glass and wood, calm and bright. Marcus Bell met him with a steady handshake and a legal pad already open. Amos told the story in simple order, placing documents where they matched each step. Marcus asked few questions, each one exact. How long had the financial dependency been going on? Did Amos have proof of threats? Were the payments gifts or loans? Had there been any written agreements? Amos answered plainly and pointed to the papers. Marcus's notes formed a short list. This is a pattern of financial exploitation and attempted coercion, he said. State law allows you to exclude an heir and defend that decision if we document the reasons. He outlined a plan in clear steps. Draft a new will naming charitable beneficiaries. Include an explicit memo explaining the exclusion. Add a no contest clause. Execute with 2 witnesses, a notary, and a video statement to confirm capacity and intent. Where do you want your estate to go? He asked. Amos already knew. Oakland Children's Education Fund, a UC Berkeley engineering scholarship, senior services, and a veterans program. Marcus nodded, noting exact names and percentages. I'll prepare drafts by week's end. We can sign Monday morning. He looked Amos in the eye. This will change your relationship with your son. It already changed, Amos said. Marcus gathered the papers into a tidy stack and returned the originals. Keep these safe. If you receive any calls that feel threatening, write down the time and words used. The record matters. Amos left the building with the appointment set and the steps clear. Review drafts on Friday, bring identification and a witness form on Monday. Record a short video statement in plain language. The wind off the water felt cool and clean. On the drive home, the city skyline held steady in the mirror while his plans settled into place. No drama, no shouting, only dates, signatures, and a boundary he should have drawn years ago. On Friday afternoon, Marcus emailed draft documents, and Amos read every line at his kitchen table, marking small corrections in the margins. Full legal names for the charities, a clean description of his reasons for exclusion, and a clear percentage for each beneficiary. Then, he called Alina to confirm Monday at 10 a.m. for the signing. The weekend passed in calm order. He walked his block at sunrise, trimmed the rose bed Grace had started, and placed his driver's license and passport beside the sealed folder so nothing would be forgotten. Monday, he parked under the 15th floor tower, rode the elevator up, and stepped into a conference room where a tripod camera faced the table and the papers were set in a careful stack. Alina introduced the two witnesses, Miss Patel and Jonas, and the notary, Mr. Ruiz, then checked their IDs and logged each name on a form. Marcus asked Amos to sit, open the will, and read the key provisions aloud in steady, plain words. The testator, Amos Karim, being of sound mind and clear judgment, excludes his son, Caleb Karim, from any inheritance because of documented financial exploitation and threatening behavior toward the testator. The estate will fund the Oakland Children's Education Fund, a UC Berkeley engineering scholarship in Grace and Amos's names, a county senior services program, and a veterans support nonprofit. A no contest clause applies to any beneficiary who challenges the will. Marcus turned on the camera. For the record, he said, state your name and today's date. Amos did so, then added in his own words why he was making the change. He had supported his son for years, had been excluded from a family trip he paid for, and had received threats when he refused to fix the consequences. Marcus asked simple capacity questions. What city they were in, the purpose of the meeting, the effect of signing, and Amos answered without hesitation. Mr. Ruiz slid the signature page forward. Amos signed each spot slowly, writing every letter of his name with a steady hand. The witnesses signed after him. The notary seal pressed into the paper with a firm click that felt like a door locking. Marcus gathered the originals into a fireproof envelope for the vault and handed Amos 2 certified copies in smaller sealed packets, plus a one-page letter explaining where the originals would be kept and how to retrieve them. Next steps are routine, Marcus said. We'll align your account beneficiaries with this plan and record a short memorandum of reasons to file with the will. Amos nodded and scheduled a follow-up call for Wednesday to update bank and brokerage designations. As he rode the elevator down, he felt a quiet shift, as if the house of his life had received a new beam where one had been missing. At home, he placed one sealed copy in his desk and the other in a small safe, wrote the charity's phone numbers on an index card, and set it by the landline. The plan was no longer an idea. It was paper, signatures, and dates. Now he would wait for the right moment to deliver the news. Amos stood beside Marcus Bell in the arrivals hall at SFO, a clean leather portfolio under the lawyer's arm, and a printed flight status on Amos's phone showing arrived. Families began to flow through the sliding doors, sunburned and tired, pulling suitcases and souvenir bags. Nora appeared first, talking fast to Gideon about a luau, her hat still tagged from the airline. Gideon rolled 2 heavy bags and scanned the crowd with accountant calm. Lila came next with Zara and Leo. Zara clutched a plastic ukulele. Leo wore a wilted lei and a brave smile. Caleb trailed behind, tapping his phone, posture loose like a man who believed a rough week had finally ended. Zara spotted Amos and ran, Leo close behind, and Amos knelt to hug them, steady and warm. When he stood, Caleb had seen Marcus, and the relaxed look fell from his face. "Dad, what is this?" he said, eyes flicking to the portfolio. Marcus stepped forward, voice measured. "Mr. Caleb Karim, I'm Marcus Bell, counsel for Mr. Amos Karim. I have documents for you." He offered the sealed envelope. Caleb took it with stiff fingers and broke it open, scanning the pages fast, then again slower until he reached the key clause. His shoulders dropped. "This can't be real," he said. Lila read over his arm, color draining as she grasped the numbers and the names of the charities. "Amos, please," she began quietly, "think about the children." Amos kept his voice even. "I did. I paid for their trip. You left me at the airport." Caleb's tone sharpened, loud enough to turn a few heads. "You can't disinherit your own son. We'll fight this." Marcus kept his hands folded. "Your father has full legal right to direct his estate. The will includes a no-contest clause, a capacity video, witness affidavits, and a memorandum of reasons. Any challenge will be costly." Caleb crushed the papers in one fist, then tried to flatten them as if the act could smooth the facts. "You're throwing away family over an argument," he said. "Not an argument," Amos answered. "A pattern and a threat." He looked at Caleb steadily. "I wrote your words down." Leo tugged at Lila's sleeve, asking why Dad was angry. Zara leaned into Amos's side, small and quiet now. Nora finally stopped talking, eyes moving from the kids to the envelope to Amos, as if assembling a picture too late. Gideon cleared his throat, the way careful men do when they see a balance sheet turn red. "Actions have costs," he said, almost to himself. Caleb tried a new angle. "You're being manipulated," he said. He put this idea in your head. Amos shook his head once. I made my own choice. Marcus closed the portfolio. Our business here is complete, he said, not unkind. Mr. Kareem, you have certified copies in that envelope and a number where any attorney can reach me. Amos squeezed Zara's shoulder and told the children he would call them in a few days. Then he and Marcus turned toward the exit, moving through the bright noise of luggage wheels and welcome home signs. Behind them, Caleb's voice rose and then thinned, as if distance itself were explaining what words had not. The hall swallowed the sound, and the lesson began to hold. Marcus drove Amos across the Bay Bridge and turned into the Montclair driveway just after dusk, the porch light clicking on as the car idled. They shook hands at the curb, and Marcus said he would wait for any attorney letters and file responses within a day. Amos carried the portfolio inside, hung his jacket on the same hook Grace had chosen years ago, and made a simple dinner, eggs, toast, tea, because he wanted calm, not ceremony. He set the 2 certified copies of the will on the oak desk, checked that the camera statement and witness affidavits were included, and placed one packet in the desk drawer and the other into the small fire safe behind the file cabinet. He wrote a short note on an index card. Call charities, update beneficiaries, bank, brokerage, credit union, safe deposit box, and slid it under the landline so it would meet him at breakfast. He slept without dreams. In the morning, he brewed coffee, opened the windows, and started the calls. The Oakland Children's Education Fund confirmed receipt of his intent letter and offered a contact for scholarship design. UC Berkeley's development office took his details for the Grace and Amos Engineering Scholarship. The county senior services director thanked him and asked about a preferred program. The veterans group put him in touch with their grant officer. Amos wrote each name and number in his ledger with the careful block letters he used at job sites years ago. After lunch, he met a banker to align transfer on death instructions, and then walked 2 blocks to the brokerage to update beneficiaries. He kept every clerk's business card and stamped receipt in a new red folder marked Estate Sync. He stopped by the credit union to arrange a safe deposit box, placed a certified copy of the will and the memorandum of reasons inside, and signed the inventory card with steady hand. Back home, he sat at the kitchen table and wrote 2 letters in plain language, one to Zara and one to Leo, telling them he loved them, that grown-up choices sometimes had big results, and that they could always call him when they wanted to talk about dolphins or homework. He sealed the envelopes and set them by the door. Late afternoon brought a voicemail from an unknown number, an even voice asking him to call about a family matter. Amos noted the time and saved the message for Marcus, then watered the rose bed while the light softened along the fence. He did not feel triumphant. He felt aligned, like a beam finally set in the right pocket. Inside, he filed his call notes, checked the front lock, and reheated tea. His phone buzzed once with a short text from Caleb. No apology, no plan, only a sentence about lawyers and mistakes. So Amos wrote the words on his pad and turned the phone face down. The house settled into evening sounds, the old clock marking minutes, the refrigerator hummed steady. He stood at the window where the hummingbird sometimes hovered and waited, as if a small answer might appear. Nothing dramatic came, only a quiet certainty. He had chosen boundaries, and the rest would follow in order. Letters, meetings, maybe court papers, maybe silence. He rinsed his cup, turned off the kitchen light, and let the corridor guide him back to his room. Each step simple. Each decision made, the mystery now not whether he would be discarded, but what he would build with the years he still owned.